Welcome back everyone to another fun game of old school Magic the Gathering, and today we have a special Halloween themed episode where, as you can expect, we will be looking at an All Hallows Eve deck filled with scary nether shadows and vampires and a giant lobster and all of the creepy creatures that it wants to resurrect from the graveyard. This video is no deck tech today. We're just going to jump into the game, but I'll add a link to another video in the description below using the All Hallows Eve deck if you want to see a full deck tech and see how it works. The other deck today also actually has a pretty scary or creepy theme. It's running, Breeding Pit, which creates these weird looking creatures every turn. It has Lord of the Pit, it has Enchantresses, Will of the Wisps, and so forth. So it's a black-green deck. You don't see black-green too much in old school, but just a coincidence that I would say these two, we'll call them Halloween theme or creepy theme decks, went up against each other. This was played many months ago, but I thought it was appropriate here to put it up at this time of the year, so enjoy the match. Alright, we will jump into potentially this spooky video. On the top here, this is a video. This is actually played many months ago. This is me playing Reanimator deck, old school Reanimator, which we've seen on the channel before. Pretty much want to get out All Hallows Eve. I've actually added old school in-person event recently, and I always like asking people what their favorite artwork is. And I know I had one gentleman who's been playing old school since like 93 or something, and All Hallows Eve was his answer, and I definitely agree with that one. So on the bottom, we have this kind of green-black Enchantress deck. So pretty quick start. The Enchantress coming out. And as long as Enchantress is an 0/2 creature is in play, you draw a card whenever you cast an enchantment. So in old school, there's just not a lot of card draw, I would say, for many of the colors. So this is going to be a real card draw engine for green. And we see an Ancestral Recall and a Wheel of Fortune on the top. And the Wheel of Fortune for Reanimator is good, again, allowing you to dump, as you see there, multiple creatures into the graveyard and then draw 7 looking for your All Hallows Eve card. It does allow the other player, though, to put some creatures into their graveyard as well. So yeah, Wheel of Fortune doing double duty in the Reanimator deck. And there is Titana's Song. This is a card you don't... I mean, you see it from time to time, but all non-creature artifacts lose their abilities and become artifact creatures with toughness and power equal to their casting cost. So on the top, the Mox, which has a 0/0 casting cost, becomes a 0/0 creature, which means it dies and goes to the graveyard. Yeah, I personally never, and here's just hard casting Seeker Vampire, 4/4 flyer. I personally never used Titania's Song in a deck. I'm curious about it though. Played against it quite a little bit. And here's a weakness. So we'll just put a counter on screen there. So the vampire gets -2, -1. So it's down to 2/3. Here's a Will of the Wisp and the Sylvan Library. So, I mean, honestly, the deck on the bottom here really... And it's getting a card draw off the library. So, really doing what it wants to do, coming out pretty strong here. Reanimator is going to have to start... It's going to have to look for its big card here soon. So there is the other extremely important card for this deck. Maybe the most important, Bazaar of Baghdad. So, land card allows you to draw 2 cards and discard 3. And so there we have a Triskelion being discarded and immediately being animated. Of course, I'm curious the question there, do you immediately ping the Enchantress for 2? Opting not to. Might be the right move. You can do the Enchantress for 2, Elf for 1, kind of start cleaning out some of the creatures, and here comes Khabál. Actually, one of the few Arabian Nights cards, I actually don't have any copies of this card. So 1/1, at the end of each turn, you put a 1/1 counter on it for every creature that's killed, and there it immediately gets pinged by the Triskelion. Another Shadow being cast from the graveyard. So this is a 1/1 creature with haste. There's 3 creatures above it in the graveyard. You can cast it from the graveyard. Which again, when you have Barzar Baghdad, you're going to be dumping creatures in there and more likely to be able to cast another Shadow. Not too many creatures in Old School with haste, so it's an interesting ability, cool artwork. We get a regrowth here. Do you just regrowth Ancestral Recall, or? Yes. Now, it can't be played this turn, but it's a good regrowth target. I will say so usually when you're playing Reanimator, in this case the opponent here on the bottom has a lot of creatures in the graveyard. So All Hallows Eve brings all creatures from all graveyards back into play. So that's a little concerning. Usually when I've won with this deck, your opponent will have no creatures in the graveyard, and you just pull out these huge creatures from yours and win. Slightly concerning developments there, and a second Enchantress coming out. So any enchantments cast, you're gonna get 2 cards drawn. I think the Reanimator here desperately looking for All Hallows Eve potentially, and that's a very powerful iPhone card that's been cast on the right there, top left. I mean, I generally try to keep that one off screen, but it slipped in there. And here is the All Hallows Eve again. The Halloween artwork with the pumpkin and the gargoyle and the ghost, so good. And this, again, for a reminder, comes out, it exiles itself after it resolves, it has 2 counters on it, loses a counter during upkeep, and when there's no counters, all creatures are reanimated from all graveyards. Get a little Halloween bash when it comes out. And here we might see quite a few creatures coming out. And another Sylvan Library. And that's going to get two cards drawn from the 2 Enchantresses. That's a Winter Factory. Now the 2, let's see the 2 counters on All Hallows Eve. It's. Oh, we're gonna see a regrowth. I didn't see what a regrowth, but there's another weakness. So the Seeger Vampire is a 0/2 flyer, basically just a chump blocker at this point. But when your opponent plays All Hallows Eve, you have 2 turns to prep for it. I mean, sometimes there's nothing you can do, but these creatures are coming out. Like if you have a Balance in your hand or Wrath of God, you can kind of just wait. But running black-green, and he's not going to have those. Now, Animate Dead here, I mean, next turn these guys are all coming out. I mean, you could. And here comes Deep Spawn, the Mighty Lobster. So it's a 6/6 with Trample, and during your upkeep, you mill 2 cards from the top of your library into the graveyard. So it's also starts feeding your graveyard for the next time you cast All Hallows Eve. We're going to get a Demonic Tutor. I don't remember what the tutor the target was here. I guess we might see next turn. Yeah, Deep Spawn is just, it's a pricey card to cast for 8 mana. But 6/6 with Trample is, and the Trample ability is quite good in Old School, so. So is this his last turn? We're gonna Paralyze. Is that on? Yep, on the Deep Spawn. And a Breeding Pit from Fallen Empires. Honestly, one of the cooler cards that isn't played as much in Old School. So you do have to pay 2 black during upkeep. Has another Will-O-Wisp. So that's, I mean, he's got 2 regenerative blockers on there. I'm not sure if it. I wonder if did he discard those because he had more than 8 in hand. I don't remember what that discard was there. Maybe from the Sylvan Library he drew extra cards. Well, that was a very good discard for him. I wasn't. Yeah, so this was a weird thing here. It was, does the Deep Spawn happen first before the All Hallows Eve begin? I think the player gets the pick, because those both happen during upkeep. So the player triggering Deep Spawn first, discarding 2 cards, and then the All Hallows Eve going off. But Breeding Pit, again, you have to pay 2 black during upkeep, but at the end of your turn, you put a Thull token into play, an 0/1 black creature Thull token, which, I mean, every turn you're getting these for blocks. Or in this case, what we're going to see is feeding them to Lord of the Pit. You know, Lord of the Pit, you have to sack a creature every upkeep as its upkeep costs, and I've never personally pieced together using Breeding Pit to do that. I really like that combo, and this player who I've played before in the Northern Paladins always is using these very interesting combos that I haven't thought about. So we have the All Hallows Eve trigger and immediately a Time Walk. That's a doozy. But now there's 3 enchantresses. There's a Lord of the Pit over there. The Khabál is back. He's kind of off the camera a little bit. 3 Will-O-Wisp. Again, you have 3 blockers with regeneration. You're getting Thull tokens every turn. He's got quite a bit. And here is looking, you know, watching this back, probably a mistake. I think I miscalculated, so all 4 Triskelions. I mean, normally if you have 4 Triskelions out in Old School, you win, right? Like, but zapping for 12 damage directly to him. Or I don't think all of them had token, but hitting it with all the trike bolts to him, bringing him down to just 7 life, and then attacking with everyone. And in previous videos, I run Axelrod Garrison. There's lots of, you know, creatures you could put in this deck because you don't really have to worry about the casting cost. But 5/5 with I like the Tramplers in Reanimator because you just swing in and you're just trying to win as quick as possible with these giant swings. So I like the trample creatures. But there's lots of creatures from Legends you could run in this instead. And here it's, again, this is what's tough on webcam, is like who's blocking what creature. Not totally sure. I think the Lord of the Pit blocked the Axelrod there. And so every creature going to the graveyard is just fueling Khabál. And so here there was a miscalculation. So he's down to 3 life. And so definitely a lot of creatures left on the bottom. And on the top, you've still got 17 life. So you feel pretty good about Reanimator still. But that was a huge swing. Didn't take him out. And we're going to get an animate dead on the Trampler. And one thing that starts... I don't remember what was being discussed here. One thing that kind of dawned on me during this match here is that actually Breeding Pit, not only does it help fuel, and he's just going to put 2 swamps under it for every upkeep, not only does it give you a creature to sack to Lord of the Pit, every time that creature gets sacked, Khabál gets stronger. So it's kind of like a 3-card combo. And there he's going to sack his Mishra's Factory to Lord of the Pit. And so I've never seen someone successfully use a Breeding Pit, Khabál, and Lord of the Pit. And I think, again, I might have said this in the past, Lord of the Pit deck is definitely on my list of want to make decks, and so definitely getting ideas here. And that's the Llanowar Elves. So yeah, I thought, you know, Khabál, Lord of the Pit, you got Will-O-Wisp, Breeding Pits, you've got All Hallows Eve. It's just a very Halloween spooky themed video with a lot of creatures on the board. Sometimes the creature battles are the funnest for me. There's a Nicole Bolas getting discarded, and 2 land cards. Okay. Animate Dead. Coming in with the flyer. So interesting. So Lord of the Pit, obviously a huge blocker for the deck on the bottom, a 7/7 Flying Trampler. But no, Nicole Bolas also a 7/7 Flyer. And if Bolas connects, the opponent discards their hand. That's such a deadly, just has like a maxed out Mind Twist built into it. So we'll see here. Now, of course, the Bolas has the Animate Dead, so it's actually a 6/7. And the Will-O-Wisp has flying, so they could also block. There's another Ghoul. That's no good. Right, and so even though the Ghoul is cast in the main phase after the Breeding Pit Fall was sacked to the Lord of the Pit, it's still going to get a 1/1 because it's just during the turn. Doesn't matter that the card wasn't out at the time. So here you're starting to see the board kind of get locked up, and I think playing a webcam makes it more confusing at what is happening, but the player on the bottom honestly is really starting to get ahead. There's another Ghoul. And another Enchantress, this one. Limited Enchantress, potentially, but... So every enchantment played is an Ancestral Recall now. And a Sylvan Library. I don't know, like, if you're the Reanimator deck here, are you looking for another All Hallows Eve to just get more creatures? More creatures, I mean, it's kind of what your deck does. Sacking an Enchantress? 2 Lord of the Pit. I feel like you just keep sacking the Thul tokens, but maybe not feeling like he needs the Enchantress. And there is a vampire. Oh boy. I mean, you start to get into, you know, if he was to swing here with a lot of these creatures, or if either player swing, you get into that, what's that saying? Math is for blockers. Like, it's almost hard to keep track, and it's... He only has, I think, yeah, his life total's off screen. He only has 3 life, so if there was a way to get rid of one of these Triskelions to the graveyard and bring it back, that'd be the game, but all 4 of them are out, and they've all shot their bolts. Okay, we're gonna get a Bizarre Baghdad play. There's the Swamp King, and I think another Nicol Bolas is under him. Again, the Swamp King being interesting, because with Swamp Walk, again, that would be a lethal swing. So maybe you know, should have held an Animate Dead and waited for that creature to make an appearance. He wouldn't be able to block it. At some point, when you get this many creatures out, like, one person's just going to swing with everybody. It's going to be the game, right? Like, oh, and are we going to get an attack? I mean, that's a, what, an 11/11 Ghoul? So that vampire was like, what? It was like an 0/2. And yeah, when you have a game like this is made for the Ghoul, because the Ghoul, I mean, that's a 13/13. I mean, they're just gonna keep growing every turn. These just invincible skeletons coming at you. I mean, the question is, like, does the Reanimator player want to, I mean, Time Twister, but then you lose all your creatures, but you do have a Bizarre Baghdad out. Or maybe you play a second Bizarre Baghdad there and just dump, no, you don't, and just draw through your deck? I'm not sure. Okay, Demonic Tutor. Again, what you tutor for in this situation, I don't know. I mean, let's see if he just plays it out. We'll see what he... The decks are getting real thin. A Breeding Pit. And that's going to get 2 cards drawn. Again, really, really well deck design. That the Breeding Pit feeds the Lord of the Pit, feeds the Ghouls, triggers the Enchantresses. Like, this is just deck building at its best in Old School here. Unfortunately for the Reanimator deck, there's just a wall of creatures. I don't fit. You can't get through that. Maybe he tutored for the Breeding Pit. Okay. All Hallows Eve is out. Another one. And I think there might have been some turns there where the Deep Spawn trigger was forgotten, to be honest. But at this point, if you're so the deck on the bottom, you're going to want to win before that Reanimator goes back off. Because I think there's the Swamp King in that graveyard, which is going to be swing for lethal, so you have to win before. Oh, and a Bad Moon. Oh, that's a good... Maybe that was the tutor target. That's a really good drop here. This is an 8/8 flying with trample. Vampire is a 5/5. Who knows what these ghouls... I mean, 13/14. One of them's a 14/14. Right, the Will of the Wisps can now attack because they have one attack. Now, of course, blocking and losing these creatures, they're all going to come back out with All Hallows Eve, so maybe not that bad. The ghouls are just getting out of control. I mean, those things are now... yeah, play a fourth one. And he's gonna get all of the creatures, 3 creatures, boom. I mean, the ghouls don't have trample, but they're currently the biggest. Bigger than any bigger creature in Old School. Bigger than Colossus of Sardinia's at this point. And so, yeah, so I think there's a debate here. If you choose not to pay the upkeep for Deep Spawn, it sacrifices. I think there was a little debate there about that, because usually that doesn't happen, but I think the deck is getting super thin there, and yeah, the Deep Spawn's becoming a problem. But with only 6 life, I think you're... Oh boy. So yeah, I think so. The Sylvan Library was active there, just digging for. I don't remember what was being dug for there, because he had lethal on board anyway. I think Lord of the Pit's got it. I think Lord of the Pit's going to be the Halloween one. Yeah. So this is going to be a scoop. So the Reanimator got out reanimated. Yeah, I think looking for a time twist. I think what could have happened was recall for a time walk, triggering, and then time walking, going to your next turn. All Hallows Eve triggers and all the creatures come out. And I think there was a path potentially to staying in the game. But with the Khabál Ghouls and that 7/8/8 Trampler, amazing game. Really good game by this Lord of the Pit deck to take down the All Hallows Eve deck on Halloween, on the Halloween special. Now I threw a little bonus game in here for everyone at the end, for those watching. You know, All Hallows Eve kind of, I mean, that early Wheel of Fortune kind of backfired. It dumped some of his creatures into the graveyard, but I figured we'll have one really short bonus game here. Not going to show the whole three game or full match. Just figured, you know, can Lord of the Pit repeat? Because that was a pretty impressive win in my opinion. Turn 1, Sylvan Library. Reanimator deck coming out pretty good. Underground Seed, Badlands, Mox. I think this match is only a couple minutes long, so we'll see. And there's your, honestly, your star of the show last time, Khabál Ghoul. This should be called the Ghoul deck. And an early Bizarre. See, so this is really key. I'm gonna get a Nicole Balas, a Lord of the Pit, a Swamp King. I mean, just a monster discard. And another Ghoul. Oh boy. Wow, okay, so when you turn 2 Bizarre Baghdad, turn 3 All Hallows Eve, I mean, this is where you'll see the Reanimator deck is real fun. It's just in another Bolas, an Axelrod. I mean, that is a graveyard to be afraid of. Okay, tutor. And again, so you know what's coming. You know there's a huge All Hallows Eve coming, so you're just gonna tutor for, I will say. Okay, putting out a little another elf for some more mana. Oh my goodness, Deep Spawn Triskelion. Is it now? I mean, that graveyard is just beyond stacked. That's a better graveyard than the last game. I think the mighty pumpkin card here, All Hallows Eve, is gonna be a doozy. It's coming in for 4 with the Pendelhaven. So, I mean, All Hallows Eve down to 11 life, and then here's the trigger. Let's see what comes out. Triskelion, Deep Spawn, Axelrod, Lord of the Pit, Swamp King, 2 Boluses, and you can't have 2 of the legendary creatures, but I still think they come out. So I think someone can correct if this was, I think there was a discussion here, so you can't have 2 legendary creatures out, but I believe, and someone can correct this in the comments, they come out, and then here one of them is sacked to Lord of the Pit before the trigger happens that stops the other Bolas from staying on the board, or is the rule, okay, no. The Triskelion was sacked to the Lord of the Pit. Never mind. So yeah, so the 2 Boluses come out. You can't have 2. One of them just goes back to the graveyard. Okay, this is still, I mean, this is just a monster swing, including a Bolas Mind Twist hit here. Coming up. I know I had a comment in a previous video, someone saying they love the Reanimator deck, but they don't have all the cards for it. I know the All Hallows Eve card is quite expensive now, but again, I encourage people, okay, here's a Black Lotus. Does he have a trick here? To just proxy the card, and groups like the Northern Paladins, and I know there's a group, the Canadian Grizzly Bears, that play with proxies, and you can still have fun with it in plenty of online matches. And I'd be damned if I've ever seen a Lotus cast 3 Paralyzes for black. That is like perfect to have that, and that's pretty impressive to use all 3 black mana for 3 different Paralyzes. And of course with the upkeep for Bolas, and he's gonna strip. Those guys are not getting untapped. So sacking the Bolas to the Lord of the Pit, and then paying 4 mana to untap. Okay, untap, I guess the Deep Spawn, yeah. That's still like, what, 19 damage on the swing, so that's lethal. I mean, pretty impressive, though, to almost, again, it's just too many creatures, too many reanimated zombies. But a Lotus for 3 paralyzed, oh, and there was Lord of the Pit. So All Hallows Eve gets its revenge there in the bonus game, but super impressive. Really love the Lord of the Pit Enchantress deck, or the Ghoul deck, we'll call it. And yeah, I think you know, that was a great win there on the great Halloween match here. The Ghouls took the long, huge creature game. And if you enjoyed the video, you know, leave a comment. If there's a certain card here that you really liked or move that you thought was impressive, let us know. But you know, enjoy enjoy the match, and we'll be back in the future.